Hello friends and fellow consumers. Today you have the unique opportunity to participate in a live event. If you are watching this video on the evening of April 23rd, you can post your questions and comments on Facebook or YouTube with Budgetman standing by to respond. That's me, Budgetman, the monetary superhero of Northeast Wisconsin. Today we will be learning about smart document management. That is, learning which documents to save and which ones to shred. We'll also talk about where to save your documents. I hope you learned something today. Please give me feedback so that I can serve you better. Enjoy the picture show.
Hey, come on, let's move, people. We should have been on this 5 minutes ago. We're rolling in 3, 2, 1. Budgetman webinar, rolling and action.
All right, let's get started. This is a Budgetman video, and today we're going to be talking about smart document management, which documents to save, where to store them, and how to properly destroy documents you no longer need. Let's start with the basics. Why even care about document management? Isn't it true that 85% of everything that gets filed is never looked at again? Yes, we file way more junk than we need to on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the more stuff we file, the more risk we have for identity theft. So our video is going to talk about these issues so that you can learn what stuff to destroy and what stuff you should keep in case you actually may need it. Don't worry yourself about taking tons of notes, because that will provide a means for you to get a nice printout on which documents to save and when to destroy them. So there are several means of physical document management. These would be things like a locking filing cabinet, fireproof safe, safety deposit box, and an emergency case. There are also many forms of digital document storage, with many more being developed. These means of digital document storage include things such as flash drives, external hard drives, CDs, compact discs, and the cloud. So every type of document storage tool, both physical and digital, have advantages and disadvantages. So which tool is best for you? Well, depends on what you're trying to save. Consider first the locking filing cabinet. It has some pros in its favor. For example, it locks, its sheer size makes it hard to drag away, and it's relatively large so you can store a lot of paperwork. So that being said, a locking filing cabinet is not entirely thief-proof. If someone wants to get into it, they will, most likely by destroying it entirely. However, unless you keep your locking filing cabinet outside, your home is the first line of defense against a thief. Even to get to your filing cabinet, a thief would first have to break into your house. It is much more likely that your filing cabinet will be tested by someone you thought you could trust, such as a guest in your house. And that is sad, but it is reality. Lastly, for file cabinets, they are rarely fireproof or waterproof, so your documents aren't protected under those circumstances. And even though I said it is an advantage to have lots of storage space, it's also a disadvantage because it encourages hoarding documents. So let's talk next about safety deposit boxes, which you can rent at a bank. They are very secure, very safe. However, they're only as safe as the people you entrust with the keys to your safety deposit box. There are many costs associated with this storage method. Most boxes will cost $25 per year up to $500 per year, depending on how large of a box you need. These boxes are very safe from theft. However, they're not waterproof, and there are many stories of people that lost their documents in a flood, such as during Hurricane Katrina. Also, cash is not insured by the FDIC if it's in a safety deposit box, but if it's in the bank, it is. Let's discuss fireproof safes. Of course, first of all, they are fireproof, which is great in the event of a house fire. Also, they will typically have a key and a lock, and they're a lot tougher than filing cabinets to break into. However, they'll typically weigh less than a filing cabinet, so they're easier to steal than, of course, a large filing cabinet. Also, fireproof safes are often not waterproof too, so in the event of a flood or other water damage, your documents could still be lost. Lastly, on a practical note, they are much smaller, so you don't have as much space to store documents. An emergency case, such as this one here, often will not have a lock, but that's okay because it's not intended to keep out a thief. These are used under the circumstance where your home could be destroyed either by forest fire or by water damage or some other means, so that you can grab your documents and personal items and family heirlooms and get it out of the house in a fast order. The concept of the emergency case is pretty simple. The idea is if there's a large natural disaster that destroys your home, destroys government buildings where the originals for your documents are stored, you could lose just about everything. So if your home was destroyed right now, what stuff would you lose? Think about that. Think about the documents, the personal items, the pictures, family heirlooms. So the idea is if you have an emergency case, if you have a moment, you can take that and you can flee your home in the event of a natural disaster. Many of us would be left only with the pictures in our wallet or purse and whatever we uploaded to Facebook. Everything else would be lost, and that would be it. Because of an emergency case's light weight, it is much easier to steal, and they are also frequently not waterproof or fireproof. Next, let's talk about electronic storage devices. This would include things like CDs, hard drives, flash drives. They have the advantages of being discrete, portable, and compact. These electronic storage devices do, however, require compatible technology to be of any use to you, such as a computer and scanner. Portability also can be a downside because they are far easier to steal, certainly far easier than a filing cabinet. Even though your documents are going to be stored to electronic storage devices, you also still have to be careful about where you store those electronic storage devices, as they can be damaged by fire, water, cold, or heat. Many people will store their electronic storage devices in a fireproof safe, so they are hidden, locked, and of course, safe from a fire. It's very important to make sure also that they're in one simple place so you don't lose them. The last electronic tool to consider is cloud storage, which is basically digital information being stored in another company's domain. The advantage with storing your digital documentation in the cloud is that it can be accessed anywhere, and it is safe from fire, flood, or from physical theft. However, the big risk here is hackers, who will often target companies, not individual users. This is out of your control. However, it is up to you to research companies in advance to make sure you find the safest place to store your personal documents. Lastly, keep in mind that cloud storage does have a monthly cost to it, and there are also space limitations for how much data you can store. That was a lot to bite off and chew, wasn't it? Well, you're doing good. Hang in there with me. We're getting to the most important stuff now, documents. Some documents need to be destroyed right away. Others can be destroyed after a certain amount of time has passed. I personally recommend you use a professional company or a consumer shredder of your own. Some consumer shredders you buy cut your paper into small strips, which can be pieced together with some difficulty. Hey, unlucky penny, please put this shredded document back together for me. A cross-cut shredder really tears the paper apart into very small pieces, which makes it much more difficult to reassemble. You aren't doing too badly. Now, I want you to try to reassemble this document. And of course, once it's all torn apart, you can recycle it. There are some documents that you need to save for several years and others that you need to save forever. It would be far too much to remember, so I will provide you with access to a printout that explains for each type of document how long you need to save it. However, I grouped documentation into several different categories so that they can be discussed in an abbreviated form. First, personal and family records. This would include things like birth certificates, family photos, social security cards, all of that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff you'll never want to destroy, and you can store it in a place that is most safe, however, not very convenient, because you don't need to access those things very often. Items such as a passport, you should only destroy after replacing it with a new one. Same would go for a driver's license. Tax records you'll want to save for 7 years, as you can be audited 7 years into the past. With those tax records, you want to keep any records that show that they were truthful. This would include your W-2s, receipts, or any other relevant records. Retirement and investment records you'll want to save for 7 years after the asset is fully spent. Things such as your stock records, you can destroy those after you sell the stock. Pension records you never want to destroy, and you can just file them with everything else you'll never intend to destroy. Financial records not associated with tax statements have the shortest lifespan of all. You really don't need to keep them for very long, and the giant pile that you have of receipts and bank statements really isn't necessary. Once you're sure that those documents are accurate and that they match your records, you can destroy those documents. And again, of course, as long as you don't need them for filing taxes. The only reason you'd need to save bank statements, receipts, or credit card statements any longer is if you needed them to prove a purchase or if you needed them to prove identity theft or fraud. Product warranty records should be saved for a certain length of time as well. If you did not use the policy, you should save that policy until the policy expires. If you used a warranty, however, you should save the warranty records until you no longer have the product. That's, of course, if you either sold it or you threw it out because it was no longer working. Legal records are one of those things that you will never want to destroy. There are quite a few things that fall into that category. This would be things such as lawsuits, judgments, death certificates, military discharge, wills, trust documents, and the list goes on and on. These ought to be stored where you store your other permanent paperwork, of course, in the safest place possible. Now, things such as a will that can be changed, you'll destroy your old will once you've replaced it with a new will. Those categories I've outlined cover just about every type of document. However, at any given time, how do you know where your documents are? I recommend you keep an inventory, a simple sheet that documents where your personal documents are located, somewhere accessible so that you know at any given time what is in your fireproof safe, your safe deposit box, or your emergency case. Having an inventory will become very helpful if you need to access your documents, or should the worst happen, if your documents get stolen, you can say what has been stolen. Also, that can become very outdated, so you should update it at least annually. Do you have any questions? I'm sure you do, since we covered so much material. So please post your questions or comments in the comment box with this video, or feel free to email me at askbudgetman@gmail.com. If you post your questions and comments during the live event, I'll be there to respond. How cool! However, if you're watching this video after the designated question and answer period, just send me an email and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something about smart document management.
Hey, the Piggy Monster's here! I'm quick!